I've always liked the pink ones. Don't know why. Do you save the wrapper or no? I think I will. Don't ask me why. No idea. I don't even know what flavours they are. I just like the different colours. Pink, yes. Blue, yes. Orange, no. I think you probably guess what's inside. I don't even not like orange chocolate. Anyway. Shouldn't you be out there? I like somewhere a little bit more quiet myself. I steal away every year into this room just for some peace and quiet, but also, you know, the crackling fire, just the ambience. It's like one of those YouTube videos, those ambient study videos with those nice sounds, be it crackling fires and tingly jazz. Did I say tingly or tinkly? Both. I find that the holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, can be, for some, a bit of an intense time. You know, it's a time for, yeah, it's a magical time, absolutely magical, but also such a time for reflection. So sometimes all of that out there gets a bit much for me. Is there a kids' table? I always liked the kids' table. As a kid, I know I'm an adult now, technically, I guess. But whenever this time of year rolls around, I still always think, for some reason, that I should be at the kids' table. Did you get anything good this year? Would you like one? Let's just put that down. Where is it? It's peaceful in here now. It's my favourite part of the day. Put hands on your chest. Oh, nice. Are you sure you're just happy sitting there, watching me read? Well, if you're just going to sit there, how about I read you a story? Seems to be what I like to do these days. Every year, I sit right here and I read a story called The Elves. Have you heard of that story? Well, Makes some sort of sense with Christmas, obviously. But it was told to me by my grandpa, and, I like to dig it out when I'm here. As I say, a time for remembrance. A time for remembrance. And family. Alright. Let's dive in. This is The Elves by the Brothers Grimm. First story. A shoemaker, by no fault of his own, had become so poor that he at last had nothing left but leather for one pair of shoes. So, in the evening, he cut out the shoes which he wished to begin to make the next morning. And, as he had a good conscience, he lay down quietly in his bed, commended himself to God, and fell asleep. In the morning, after he had said his prayers, and was just going to sit down to work, the two shoes stood quite finished on his table. He was astounded, and did not know what to say to it. He took the shoes in his hand to observe them closer, and they were so neatly made that there was not one bad stitch in them, just as if they were intended as a masterpiece. Soon after, too, a buyer came in, and, as the shoes pleased him so well, he paid much more for them than was customary, and, with the money, the shoemaker was able to purchase leather for 2 more pairs of shoes. The following morning, too, he found the 4 pairs made, and so it went on constantly. What he cut out in the evening was finished by the morning, so that he soon had his honest independence again, and at last became a wealthy man. Now, it befell that one evening, not long before Christmas, when the man had been cutting out, he said to his wife before going to bed, "What think you if we were to stay up and see who it is that lends this helping hand?" The woman liked this idea and lighted a candle, and then they hid themselves in the corner of the room behind some clothes that were hanging up there and watched. When it was midnight, 2 pretty little naked men came, sat down by the shoemaker's table, took all the work that was cut out before them, and began to stitch, sew, and hammer so skillfully and so quickly with their little fingers that the shoemaker could not turn his eyes away for astonishment. They did not stop until all was done, and stood finished on the table, and then they quickly ran away. Next morning, the woman said, "The little men have made us rich, and we really must show that we are grateful for it. They run about so, and have nothing on, and must be cold. I'll tell thee what I'll do. I will make them little shirts, and coats, and vests, and trousers, and knit them both a pair of stockings, and do thou too make them 2 little pairs of shoes." The man said, "I shall be very glad to do it." And one night, when everything was ready, they laid their presents all together on the table, instead of the cut-out work, and then concealed themselves, to see how the little men would behave. At midnight, they came bounding in, and wanted to get to work at once. But, as they did not find any leather cut out, but only the pretty little articles of clothing, they were at first astonished, and then they showed intense delight. They dressed themselves with the greatest rapidity, putting the pretty clothes on and singing, "Now we are boys so fine to see, why should we longer cobblers be?" I recommend you insert your own tune there when reading it to yourself in your head. Then they danced and skipped and leapt over chairs and benches. At last they danced out of doors. From that time forth, they came no more, but as long as the shoemaker lived, all went well with him, and all his undertakings prospered. Isn't that a Christmassy story for the ages? Did you enjoy that one? See? This is much more chill than all of that fuss out there. At least for me. You like it, do you? Yeah, it's very old. Very old. Oh. My grandpa was quite the chap. Grandpas always have their stories and their interesting sayings. Mine, what was his phrase that he liked to wheel out? By the jolly powers. What does that mean? By the jolly powers. I love it. Absolutely love it. This was him. Many, many Christmases ago. Here. Take a look. I hope this finds you and yours really well and in good health. This holiday season. We'll be sure to light a candle for you in your honor. Yuletide greetings. Okay. Get in the envelope. Okay. You wanted to escape out there, did you? I feel you. Yeah. It can be a bit loud. Yeah. Cheers to you. Yeah, I realise it's a bit late to be sending off Christmas cards. But better late than never, right? I'll put several stamps on them. So it's like they've been sort of circulated around by the postman quite a few times. And it's only distant relatives. Who really cares, right? Well, they do. Which is why they're getting one. Presumably for mid-January time. Maybe I should forge a few postmasters' signatures. Good idea. Get anything good this year? Yeah, it's interesting. Once you're an adult, as I sort of am, I guess. It's a little less exciting, the present aspects of it. You still like the food, but hey, it comes back around, of course. The magic instead is family, and just taking stock for what you have. And for me, that's just enjoying a quiet moment. And reading, actually. It's a yearly tradition for me to read a story called The Elves. Have you heard of it? No. It was first told to me by my grandpa, an incredibly wise fellow. You've heard the first part. Yeah, it's probably the most famous. The one with the shoemaker. Warning, spoilers, they get progressively weirder. Since you're here, would you like me to read to you? It's only short. One of these? No. Fair enough. I imagine you're quite full. Okay. The Elves by the Brothers Grimm. Second story. There was once a poor servant girl who was industrious and cleanly, and swept the house every day and emptied her sweepings on the great heap in front of the door. One morning, when she was just going back to her work, she found a letter on this heap, and as she could not read, she put her broom in the corner and took the letter to her master and mistress. And behold, it was an invitation from the Elves, who asked the girl to hold a child for them at its christening. The girl did not know what to do, but at length, after much persuasion, and as they told her that it was not right to refuse an invitation of this kind, she consented. Then 3 elves came and conducted her to a hollow mountain where the little folks lived. Everything there was small, but more elegant and beautiful than can be described. The baby's mother lay in a bed of black ebony, ornamented with pearls. The coverlids were embroidered with gold, and the cradle was of ivory, the bath of gold. The girl stood as godmother, and then wanted to go home again. But the little elves urgently entreated her to stay 3 days with them. So she stayed, and passed the time in pleasure and gaiety, and the little folks did all they could to make her happy. At last, she set out on her way home. Then they first filled her pockets quite full of money, and after that they led her out of the mountain again. When she got home, she wanted to begin her work, and took the broom, which was standing in the corner, in her hand, and began to sweep. Then some strangers came out of the house, who asked her who she was and what business she had there. And she had not, as she thought, been 3 days with the little men in the mountains, but 7 years. And in the meantime, her former masters had died. It's not quite as Christmassy as the first, but not all stories need to have a really satisfying end or Christmassy morals. So, that was book 2. That one was always my favourite personally, just because I really enjoyed how completely bizarre it was. And sometimes, when stories are told to you by, your grandpa, they hold a rather dear place in your heart, even if they aren't Shakespeare. This was my grandpa many Christmases ago. Wearing the very same jumper, too. It's getting quite old now, this one. Hey, have a look. During the holidays, the program will be frequently varied, but at every performance, morning and evening, two merry and marvelous theatrical sketches will be introduced, which the following artists will appear. Mr. Cook. Mr. Cook. Very good. Gallery of Mystery. Madame Tussauds and Sons exhibition. Yes, Madame Tussauds and Sons. Madame Tussauds and Sons. Pantomimes. Why are they still juvenile costume balls. Okay, fine, all the pantomimes. Had enough of all them, have you? Yes, too right. Too right. Oh, don't mind me. Please. Do your own thing. It's all good. Yes, of course. Plenty of room for the two of us. Have you ice skated before? You should try it, it's very fun. Very fun. Believe me. Have you caught any of the pantomimes as yet? I'm surprised they continue after Christmas. Why would you go to a pantomime after Christmas Day? I don't understand it. But that's just me, I guess. Well, since you're there, how about a little story? Do you fancy one? Why not? It's Christmas. Or whatever you celebrate. Yes. No. Yes. Okay. Maybe next time. I won't tell. Okay. All good. Just before I get started, are you having a nice holiday season? Yes, people can be a bit loud. But it's nice and cozy in here, no? This is a story called The Elves. It's got 3 parts. And I'm going to read you the 3rd. It's only a paragraph long, so I won't take up too much of your time. Besides which, I have to get to bed pretty soon. Shall we? Very good. You ready? The Elves by the Brothers Grimm. A certain mother's child had been taken away out of its cradle by the elves, and a changeling with a large head and staring eyes, which would do nothing but eat and drink, laid in its place. In her trouble, she went to her neighbour and asked her advice. The neighbour said that she was to carry the changeling into the kitchen, set it down on the hearth, light a fire, and boil some water and 2 eggshells, which would make the changeling laugh, and if he laughed, all would be over with him. The woman did everything that her neighbour bade her. When she put the eggshells with water on the fire, the imp said, "I am as old now as the Wester forest, but never yet have I seen anyone boil anything in an eggshell." And he began to laugh at it. Whilst he was laughing, suddenly came a host of little elves, who brought the right child, set it down on the hearth, and took the changeling away with them. The end. Plainly, the stories do not get better. They get more and more faintly ridiculous. But now you know it, and now, if you so wanted, you could tell it to somebody else. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed telling it to you. I sadly now have to leave. I've got an early train, but it was an absolute pleasure, and I trust we will do it again. One for the road, eh? Thank you very much for staying with me, and I trust you have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a very Happy New Year. See you soon.